This is the Better Life, Better Work show, and I'm your host, Allison Crow. I'm an intuitive life and business coach here to help you create better life and better work. I help super successful people, the recovering overachievers, put the soul back in their lives, and I help soulful people create success. On this show, topics range from the mystic to the logistic, and our content will support your being and your doing while on your path to create better life and better work. More is not better. Better is better. Hey there. This is episode number 104, and I wanted to let you know that you are not alone. Hey, today's topic is you're a gardener, not a machine. And this conversation has come up so many times this week in conversations with my clients and with my colleagues. And so what I mean by that, and this can be both a business and a life podcast. A lot of times the context that has come up is in business. And interestingly, the topic that was scheduled to be recorded today was how to share your heart and show your work in these times. And the answer to that is, I don't know yet. So what I mean by gardener versus machine, I think any of us that have existed, which is all of us, somehow we have been raised in both life and business to perform, to create outcome instead of celebrate process. And I find that many of my clients are always unwinding this impossible standard of performance. Now, I started out as a performance coach, and I still see the value in executing action and implementing, etc. So this reminds me of a time when I was on a coaching call back in the performance days, and we were always having to report numbers. And so if you look at the data, what does the data say? But just the numbers alone didn't always share what was going on. And so if I remember correctly, and either way it'll get the point across, our boss was basically bitching because somebody's numbers were down. And one of my colleagues asked, wouldn't it be helpful to also know open-ended information from our clients? Like, is there anything else going on in your world that might affect this? Might affect the numbers. And so, for example, this one client's numbers were really far down, but her husband had died and she had realized that she'd been diagnosed with cancer. And so it goes to say that we don't necessarily have to be a victim of our circumstances, but sometimes the circumstance, the context, and the landscape of what's going on affect our performance. And certainly when there's an abrupt change and we're having to make pivots or shifts or adjustments. And so I wanted to remind you guys that you're a gardener, not a machine. If you're my client or you're listening to me, or if you resonate with me at all, you are probably somebody who really wants to do well, be well in the world, but you also want to keep your soul alive, right? My LLC is called Soulful Living. We don't just want to live and work. We want to do it without losing our soul. And our soul, even actually our body and our humanness, is an organic thing. And here we are always trying to make it be regimen, consistent, disciplined. And so when I talk about with my clients being a gardener versus a machine, there are so many different phases to gardening. There is planting seeds and nurturing and tilling the soil and patience in waiting for things to grow and going out and tending to your garden regularly. But when I tend to my garden in the backyard, it doesn't necessarily require the same thing every single day. So I go out And I do this in my business too. Like, what does my business need today? What do I need today? What is the current landscape? What is the context of what's going on? And I will adjust nurturing my garden according to all the elements. Many years ago, I came across the book, The Power of Full Engagement, and it introduced me to the concept of managing energy, not time. It was in a very performative context in this book. It was about sports coaching. But it helped me, it helped me understand that we're not machines, that we're gardeners. And so we've got to manage our energy instead of time. And I want to point out to all my gardeners that right now, the weather and climate is new. Even though it's been going on for 4 months, I'm sure you've heard people talk about, like, what's the new normal? What's the new normal? And this week on a coaching call, one of my clients mentioned just feeling off and uncertain and shorter attention span. And so I want to remind all you guys very lovingly that you are not alone if things seem weird right now. My girlfriend, Kay, so shout out to Kay who listens. Kay and I were talking this morning, and I said, I want to talk about how business feels weird. Like, it just doesn't feel very businessy. It feels weird right now. I like, my brain is telling me I need to do, but my body and the environment is just saying, slow down, everything in perfect time. And to use the analogy of a gardener, it feels like I'm going out and watering my garden, but it's saturated. And as she was sharing what was going on with her, which I won't share with you guys, but she also shared another one of her I said, well, what does your mentor XYZ say? And she goes, oh, she says it feels weird. And I said, see, my client said the same thing right now too. It feels weird right now. It is weird. And so what's going on underneath our current, so we all know what's going on currently with COVID, with anti-racism. It's also the beginning of summer. Many of you are transitioning from working with your kids at home to figuring out school stuff. Some people I know haven't skipped a beat. They're just like, la, 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 let's keep selling. And if that's not you, that's okay. It doesn't mean that you will not get your mojo back. So one of the sayings that has guided me in my business is that there is ebb and flow, and the ebb always comes back. It does not do my garden any good to go out and water and fertilize it excessively if that's not what my garden needs. I have a fiddle leaf fig. It's very finicky. If I water it too much, it starts to rot and die. Now, I'm not saying neglect your business, but I am saying manage the moment. Disconnect from group sync for a while, what everybody else is doing in their garden. Pull away from the technology and really get connected with yourself. And one of the questions that I've been asking when I feel heavy, when I feel depressed, when I feel overwhelmed, when I feel uncertain, is I'm checking, is it mine? Sometimes it is, sometimes it isn't. But I have to get back to my own centered space. And by the way, due to the overstimulation of the nervous system, it may take a little bit more frequency to stay in center. One of my clients said she finds herself going outside and putting her feet in the dirt. She lives in the desert of Colorado. She goes and finds herself putting her feet in the dirt regularly. And she's like, I'm not even thinking about it. I just realized my body is drawn to go outside barefoot and stand in the dirt. And so what she's doing, her body knows that it needs more grounding than it ever needed before. I can feel my body saying less computer, more music and dancing. And I think that's so funny because normally music and dancing are not one of my go-tos, but I can feel my body craving it. That's what my garden is asking for. So today, I just wanted to remind you, If things are weird, you're not alone. And at first this week, I felt heavy with my clients. I was like, wow, I'm not really showing up for them. I should be positive and go-getter and get them out of their funk. And as we talked about in human leadership last week, what if the funk and the weirdness is not something to be ignored or bypassed or disciplined all through, but what if we met ourselves with compassion and consideration and curiosity? What does my body need right now? What does my mind need right now? What does my business want from me? I have these 3 different rose bushes outside, and 2 of them are really thriving, and one of them thrived early in the spring and is looking kind of puny. And so as I look and I go back and I cut the dead heads off the roses, and I look and I can see that the soil around the one that's not working is really puny. It doesn't need all 3. The other 2 were doing really well, but the soil around one of them was not, I could just tell it wasn't healthy soil. And so I was able to make an adjustment for that one rose plant. And I have no doubt that with a little extra TLC, that rose bush will bloom again shortly. Now, most of us, especially in business, we're trained to be fucking machines, and I'm over it. Nature doesn't hurry, and yet it still blooms. I think that's a Lao Tzu quote. Nature doesn't hurry and it still blooms. And there is a time for death and destruction. There is a time for rest. There is a time for going within. And I don't know, maybe this is your time for going in. Maybe the current landscape or the current climate is requiring more of you just for everyday life. And so we don't have as many emotional or energetic resources, and we're comparing it to last year or last spring. One of my friends said to me, I'm just not really excited about my business, and normally I'm really excited in the summer. And I was like, well, how long have you been doing business? 30 years. Okay. And in 30 years, has it always worked out? And it has. So I want to remind you to self-trust. Those of you that are more in the beginning phases of business, I get it. You just got to noodle through. You got to noodle through. And sometimes noodling through, I don't know where I came up with that. What I'm saying, noodle through is like we talked about a few weeks ago with Rich Litvin. Sometimes we're just making shit up. And so noodle through is doing the best you can, making some action, some effort. But you guys also, we've got to rest. We've got to take self-care is so important right now for all of us. No matter what's going on in your individual world. My individual world, like little Allison Crowland and her house and her business, is really going amazing. And yet I still live in the current context of the world that all of you are living in. It's weird right now. It doesn't feel good for me, it doesn't feel good. Well, right now I'm also not selling anything. So it doesn't feel good to be all businessy. And I notice that my clients and my audience needs a little bit of joy and a little bit of remembering the small moments of gratitude and the things that are working. We're not necessarily bypassing the difficult things going on right now, but we're also remembering to find the little moments of goodness. My clients are gardeners, not machines. My clients are women and men of range, willing to be in the ebb and not bypass it, willing to feel discomfort, and willing to celebrate both micro and macro moments of success and joy. So I just wanted to remind you that. Now, here's one other thing. If you consider yourself more of a machine, I want you to be like the bottling machine at the Shiner Brewery in Shiner, Texas. Or maybe it's called the Spetzel Brewery. So there's a brewery for the Shiner Bock beer. here in Texas. It's bottled here in Texas. And you can go and tour the brewery. And as you tour the brewery and see where all the beer is made, they have like the big vats where they brew the beer. And then when you're in this brewery, you're up on the second story and there's a big glass pane window where you can look down over the bottling manufacturing process. So they brew, they bottle, they do all of it from beginning to end. And one of the things I noticed, so they get the beer in the bottles, the beer gets the cap on, it gets the label on, and there's a section in this automated machine, right? This automatic machine that when the bottles come around this curve and they're about to go, they've just gotten their label on, they've gotten their cap on, they're full of beer, and they're about to go towards the final section of being boxed up for shipping. They come around a corner in a single file line on this conveyor belt. And right when they come around the corner, sometimes the centrifugal force causes those bottles to wobble. And when one of the bottles wobble, even the machine senses the wobble, and the whole production line slows down. And the slowing down stops the centrifugal force and the bottle rights itself up, or if need be, a human being who's overseeing it comes and stands the bottle that tipped over up, and then the machine senses that it's back on track and it gets going again. So if you don't like the gardener analogy and you prefer to be a machine, please be a machine that accommodates for the wobble. Right? It's good stuff. All right, you guys, I want to leave you with this last little piece right here. I don't know if I've shared it with you guys or not. I know I've shared it with my clients. This is a little combination of a prayer, and it's actually a list. On June 8, 2012, I went to a self-care workshop with Renee Trudeau in Austin, Texas, and I just sat and listened, and I wrote down what my guides, my intuition told me. And I've decided that, not decided, but for as long as I've had this, it's on the edge of a journal page. It has been laminated many times, and it has been taped to every desktop computer I've had. And often when I'm in the wobble, I go to this list to remember my spirit's business plan. And I think it is also part of tending my garden. So I wanted to share that with you. It says, "Dearest Allison, surround yourself with beauty. They will come to you. Be spicy. You are the aroma. Breathe in. You're encircled. Focus on your work instead of others. Nurture your insides. You know what's coming. Small bites, Kaizen steps. Ask for what you want and need. Write and create every day. Dare to be rich. Thank you." And so with that, my friends, I hope you have an amazing week. I will see you next weekend. No matter where you are, ebb or flow, the flow always comes back. And remember that you're a gardener, not a machine. And if for some reason you want to be a machine that accommodates the wobble. Loving you guys. Thank you so much for listening. Hey, P.S. If you want to come over to Instagram and follow me, I'm experimenting with doing short Instagram lives there. As often, I know I talk about myself a lot, but I also talk about and share hopefully ideas that you can take on in your own life and that are helpful to you. It's the way I move in the world. My brain and my spirit like to dance with experience and information and stories and learn through stories. And so I'm doing a little sharing over there instead of doing lives on Facebook right now. And if you want to get on the wait list for Soulful Success to become become a Soli this fall when we open back up or at the end of summer, you can go to www.allisoncrow.com. Oh, no, not that. That's my main webpage. You can go to coachwithallison.com. coachwithallison.com, and there should be a place where you can enter your email to get on the wait list, because I would love to have you when we open the doors again. I'm here to support gardener clients who are gardening their lives and gardening their businesses with intention to create beautiful things, but also understand that we're not machines. All right, you guys, I'll see you next week. Thanks for listening. As always, thanks for listening. Totally appreciate you thinking about somebody who might really love this episode and you sharing it with them. Also, I always appreciate your reviews. It's like podcast currency. It's like a tip in the jar saying thanks. And finally, if you want to share on social media, a screenshot, or any insights you get from listening to this episode, I will totally respond. You can share with the hashtag BetterLifeBetterWorkShow. This show is sponsored by my 3 rescued dogs, Leroy Brown, Clementine, and Rocky Potato. They're here to remind you to consider adoption when you get your next pet. More is not better, better is better.